Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking out time this afternoon to join this session and for your interest in learning more about how you can streamline machine learning complexities with Amazon SageMaker. My name is Urvashi. I'm a product manager on Amazon SageMaker, and I've been with Amazon for about 6 years. So I'll spend a short amount of time giving you an overview of Amazon SageMaker and its capabilities. And we'll spend majority of this time hearing from Massimo on how Infor, an AWS customer, is using Amazon SageMaker to accelerate their machine learning initiatives. So at Amazon, we've been applying machine learning for over 20 years in almost all businesses. And when we talked to our customers, we heard from them that they wanted to apply machine learning as well and transform their business and bring innovation. But most of the customers that we spoke to, we found common threads. They were all dealing with the same types of challenges when applying machine learning in their businesses. First and foremost, there is a lack of machine learning expertise that customers were trying to fill up. In a lot of cases, developers were having to learn machine learning and data science concepts, which was time-consuming and as a whole stream and field of study in itself. In other cases where customers had data scientists that were building these machine learning models, these data scientists were having to then deploy these models into production and manage these services in production, which is typically more suited for engineers who have experience managing production level services or managing DevOps. In a lot of cases, customers that did have data scientists and developers working together, we found that they were rewriting a lot of the code to take machine learning models that the data scientists were building and then implementing them into production. And as part of this whole process, the entire time that it took to apply machine learning was too long, in the order of several months, whereas our customers wanted it to be days or even hours. Another challenge that was unique to machine learning was that customers were managing unprecedented amounts of data. And so they had to manage a lot of infrastructure to deal with that scale of data and to do it securely. And then the associated costs were also high, so they had to manage those costs. And then, as with any production service, customers were having to manage machine learning models in scale and build a lot of the security and compliance around it. So we looked at these challenges and we took on a mission to put machine learning in the hands of every developer. And we realized this mission by launching capabilities in 3 different layers. So at the very bottom, we have various choices for data scientists and developers to use open source and popular machine learning and deep learning frameworks, including MXNet, TensorFlow, PyTorch, Chainer, and several others. We also have access to best-in-class hardware and infrastructure to run machine learning at scale. Sorry. At the middle layer, we have Amazon SageMaker, which is an end-to-end machine learning service. And it provides you the same machine learning and deep learning frameworks and infrastructure, but in a fully managed way. So you're not spending time managing any infrastructure, and you have pre-built components that you can use out of the box, or you can customize SageMaker for your specific needs. And at the very top, we have AI services, where AWS has invested in solving common machine learning problems. So all you need to do is just bring your data and access these directly with simple APIs. So if you're a developer with no machine learning background, and you're trying to implement machine learning and solving fairly common problems, you can use one of the AI services very quickly and easily. We'll spend time today talking about SageMaker. So Amazon SageMaker is an end-to-end machine learning service that helps you build, train, tune, and deploy your machine learning models in production at scale. Amazon SageMaker is the easiest and the quickest way to get your machine learning models from idea to production. And I'll talk about how we make it possible. Let's look at the typical machine learning process. If you've been involved in a machine learning project, you've typically gone through one or more or all of these stages. You start with collecting and preparing your data for training. This might involve creating label data sets that you need to train your models, or you might be cleaning your data because the data that you typically receive is not readily usable. So you might clean it, pre-process it, transform it, and get it ready so that it can be given to a machine learning model and run training on. Then you typically decide which is the right algorithm for the type of machine learning problem that you're trying to solve and what works best in your use case. And there's several options available. Once you've determined that, you then need to set up your infrastructure to train these machine learning models. And as I talked earlier, the data that we're seeing customers applying machine learning on is very large, and it can be in the scale of terabytes or petabytes. So you want to make sure that your training infrastructure scales as well. Once you've trained your model, you typically don't stop there. You train your model continuously so that you can get the most optimal model and the highest quality model that you can then take and deploy into production. And when you deploy a model into production, that's when your machine learning starts getting realized. That's when you can give your model new and unseen data and get predictions. And similar to any production service, you want to make sure that your machine learning models in production can scale, they meet all the security and compliance constraints, and so on. So Amazon SageMaker helps you build your end-to-end machine learning pipeline using the components that are built in. So your machine learning process is quick, fully managed, and efficient. But you don't have to use every single component of SageMaker. You can pick and choose which components you want to use and integrate them as part of your existing machine learning process. And I talked about earlier how Amazon SageMaker is very easy to use. And the way it's simple to use is because we have a console experience on the AWS console where you can access all and every component of Amazon SageMaker, so you don't have to programmatically access it. But you can also access SageMaker through a high-level Python SDK, which we have open sourced, as well as programmatically through the low-level Bodo APIs, as well as through the command line. Let's dive into each of these machine learning stages and how SageMaker accelerates the process. So typically, when you start your machine learning experimentation, you want to be able to explore your data sets, visualize them, play around with them, experiment with different types of machine learning models. And Jupyter is a very popular tool that a lot of data scientists and developers use. Amazon SageMaker provides built-in Jupyter notebooks that are pre-configured with the most popular machine learning libraries. So you don't have any setup or environments that you need to create when you want to use machine learning and get started quickly. You can also integrate your Jupyter notebooks with public or private code repositories so you can easily collaborate with your team members. And you can also set up lifecycle configurations around them. So whether you're a single data scientist using notebooks or you're a team of hundreds of data scientists using notebooks, you can make sure that your environments are always consistent with your organization's policies. Amazon SageMaker also provides several pre-built examples that are published on GitHub. So when you use a SageMaker notebook, you can simply go to the Examples tab and clone one of the existing examples. And you can run them directly. You can use your data sets, or you might even customize those examples and work on them to serve your specific business problem. So notebooks are great to get started and experiment and prepare your data. But a lot of times, the problem that customers told us that they were running into was that when they were creating training data, they were spending a lot of time labeling data that they could then give to supervised machine learning models so that they could learn. So we launched Amazon SageMaker Ground Truth, and it essentially helps you reduce the cost of creating labeled training data sets by up to 70%. And the way we do it is by applying machine learning, and specifically a technique called active learning. So let's say you want to train your machine learning models and you want to label your data set. Previously, you would hand label an entire data set. And if you're training a autonomous vehicle to detect pedestrians, then you can imagine you might want to train on millions of data so that you can train your model to detect pedestrians in different types of lighting, in different road conditions, whether it's children or groups of individuals, and so on. So it can get very expensive and time-consuming to hand label all of this data. So with SageMaker Ground Truth, what you can do is you can hand label a small portion of the data, and we train our machine learning models to then predict labels for the rest of the data set. And you have a few levers here that you can use to control how these labels are generated. First, you can create the labeling workforce in 3 ways. You can use the public crowd with Amazon Mechanical Turk, which is a public crowdsourcing platform. If your data is not, does not have to meet any specific security concerns and it's okay to be viewed and annotated by the public workforce, that's a great option. But if your data needs to be secured and accessed only by a certain set of individuals, then you can also create your private team. And you can tell SageMaker who are the individuals who should be labeling this data set. And we have the interfaces and the UX and the experience for them to go and hand label these. You can also use third-party vendors that specialize in certain labeling tasks. So you don't have to use the public crowd or your own team's time. The second lever that you have is that you can set confidence thresholds. So if your label prediction that the machine learning model is making is below a certain threshold, let's say 60%, you can then kick that data back to the human labelers. And when this process runs over time, the machine learning models become better, and they're able to predict the labels with higher accuracy, and you don't need to hand label as much amount of the data as you would previously. So if you're dealing with problems on creating label data sets, I would highly encourage you to try out SageMaker Ground Truth. So once you have your data ready, and you're now ready to start trying different machine learning algorithms, you can use Amazon SageMaker's built-in algorithms to get started quickly. So we looked at the most common and the most frequently used machine learning use cases, and we built 17 machine learning algorithms that are available in SageMaker out of the box. So you don't need any machine learning experience or background to be able to use those algorithms out of the box. But if you do have machine learning expertise that you've developed, or if you have custom models that you've developed, you can also bring them into SageMaker by packaging them into containers and then training your models or deploying these models. Earlier, I talked about how we provide access to different types of machine learning and deep learning frameworks. Those are also available in SageMaker. So you can use MXNet, TensorFlow, PyTorch, scikit-learn, Chainer, or another machine learning framework that you like, and run it in SageMaker. We've actually optimized how these frameworks run in SageMaker, and then we've open sourced these containers as well, so you can take them extend them and customize them or use them out of the box. So we try not to be opinionated about how you should do machine learning. We know that machine learning is evolving, and different individuals have different preferences for toolkits, frameworks, algorithms, and so on. So we want to give you all of the options to run in SageMaker. We've also increased selection for machine learning models and algorithms by launching the AWS Marketplace for machine learning. So you can go to the marketplace and browse pre-trained models or algorithms that you can take and train with your own data. And this is great because now you have a broader selection from different types of sellers. If you build machine learning models yourself, you can also list your own models, and this can be a great source of revenue for you or your organization. So we had talked earlier about how machine learning is different from other workloads where you have a large amount of data. And typically, the Jupyter notebooks are a great environment to experiment and to train machine learning models when your data sets are small. But what do you do when you have terabytes or petabytes of data? You want to be able to train machine learning models on distributed and scalable infrastructure. And SageMaker provides you that in a fully managed way. So instead of having to manage your own infrastructure, what you can do is you can tell SageMaker, hey, run this training job with this instance type and these many number of instances. And SageMaker will create the cluster. It will run your training job, and then it will tear down the cluster when your job is complete. So you only pay for the duration for which your machine learning models are running, and you don't pay to manage a persistent cluster where you either have data scientists competing for capacity, or it's mostly underutilized when there isn't enough training workload coming in. The other optimization SageMaker provides is how your data gets accessed, and we've optimized it such that you can stream your data directly from S3 at high throughput. So if you're training in a distributed fashion on hundreds of P3 GPU instances, you can get significant scale and cost savings. Once you've trained your models, you want to then tune those models, and you want to find the right hyperparameters for your machine learning model so that you have the most optimal model to deploy. But this process can be very time-consuming because the number of hyperparameters can be in the order of millions. So you can use SageMaker's automatic model tuning capability to find the best and the highest quality model without investing a lot of time in trial and error. The other optimization that you can do is use Amazon's SageMaker Neo to train your model once and compile it to run on different device targets. So let's say you're doing machine learning and you're deploying your models on various deployment targets like the cloud, edge devices, and all of these could have different hardware configurations, different generations, different memory footprints or processing power. So instead of having to train your model for every device target that you want to deploy on, you can use Neo to train your model once and then compile it for every device target that you want to deploy on. And your models run with 2 times better performance and much smaller memory footprint. So it's great. Once you've optimized your machine learning model and you have it ready and you're ready to deploy it into production, you can deploy it in several ways in SageMaker. And you can bring models that you've trained in SageMaker, or you can bring models that you may have already trained in your own environment and just deploy them in SageMaker. So the first deployment option is you can deploy on the cloud on a REST endpoint, which is available to serve predictions with low latency and in real time. You can also take the same model and deploy it so that you can do predictions on large batches of data at high throughput. You can take the same models and deploy them on edge devices using IoT Greengrass, or you can even take these models and deploy them in your own environments. And then you can set up all of the controls that you would need to manage these models in production, which includes fully managed auto-scaling, as well as security and compliance controls. So you have full VPC, private link, IAM roles, so that you can set permissions and manage control and access, as well as being able to encrypt your data at rest and transit. So we've talked about the end-to-end machine learning process and the various capabilities SageMaker provides. Just to wrap up, it's an end-to-end machine learning service that helps you build, train, tune, and deploy machine learning models at scale. You can do the end-to-end machine learning process on SageMaker, or you can use components that work for you. Let's now spend time learning how Infor, a customer of SageMaker, is using SageMaker to accelerate their machine learning workloads. And I invite Massimo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Massimo Capoccia, and I'm responsible at Infor for the initiative Infor OS. Before we go to the, to learn about how we use SageMaker, I want to introduce you to Infor. You maybe don't know Infor. We are the third largest business software vendor. We deliver business software, ERP, CRM in different industries, healthcare, manufacturing, public sector, and so on. We are in New York, but we are a global company. We have a lot of cloud users, and we are an AWS customers, so we run all our software on AWS. We deliver software for global enterprise, so very, very big corporations, but also for SMB. And what does it mean for SMB and AI? That's also a very big challenge. This type of industries don't have AI scientists and so on. So you have to have a solution that runs for global enterprises, but also for smaller enterprises. And so we're going to talk about that and how we did it with SageMaker. Before we do that at Infor, so we don't only build business software, but we also build a platform to run this business software. And there is a lot of commonality. If you go to manufacturers or healthcare or public sector, there is all kind of functionality that is shared amongst those solutions. And we have centralized those functionalities in a platform called Infor OS. And the same we did for AI. We have centralized, so regardless the customers and the industry that we serve, we have a common shared services for AI. So with Infor, what we do is we take all these different applications that we have, and we package those together, and we call the cloud suite. So you can have an ERP engine that is very optimized for a manufacturer like Boeing or like Ferrari, but we have that ERP engine, but they also have edge applications like an enterprise asset management, a CRM, and a supply chain. So we package all these applications together, and we do that because we have this platform called Infor OS that it will make available for the end users for a common business process and an AI processes. So our Infor Cloud Suite, that's what we give to our customers. The Infor OS provides all these services, common services. So we have a common portal, a common integration platform. We have an API gateway. We have a data management solution. So we have IoT, and we have all kind of other services. But one very important for this session is what we call the Coleman AI. And the Coleman AI is really the platform for our artificial intelligence initiatives to deliver to our customers. You're going to see why it's also important to have the other services. And that's actually the key of the presentation. So when you want to deliver AI to your customers, from a business software perspective, there is a key requirements that you have really to achieve before even you want to start with AI, right? And that's a very important point. And let's go through these requirements. So first of all, before even you start, we're gonna take a look at that. You need data. You need the raw data. You need really the cleansed data. You need the data essentially, right? So then, of course, you need a machine learning platform to take that data and go through the analysis. You need to train, and you need also to deploy those machine learning models. But also with that, you're going to see that security is also very important, because how do you apply security to a machine learning model? That's one of the key that we had with our customers, that we had to solve it. So any AI project, if you run an AI project to your customers, it starts with a classical integration problem, because you have data everywhere, right? And the customer will say, well, I get some data here, I get some data in that system. So you will need to fetch that data and bring it into some place so that you can start with your AI project. So if you think you go into a larger corporation, so smaller corporation, and say, I can start AI day one, no. You have to really get, you're going to have an integration problem first that you have to solve. The second is actually all these systems that a customer may have represent actually a business process, in order to cash or procure to pay. And so if you want to do analysis and AI on those type of processes, actually this type of systems are interconnected. The data is interconnected. So when you apply AI to these systems, you have to also take care of this interconnection, right? Otherwise, your AI is not going to be smart. And then, of course, to make it AI very easy, and also for SageMaker, if you can get this data to a single place, that would be actually very convenient, because then you can really start almost by day one with your AI projects. If you don't, then first you have to go through these steps. So once you have that data in a single place, then you start with the AI modeling and the AI projects. And for us, you're going to see that when we give it to customers, we want to give it in such a way that you really can model and manage the life cycle of the models. Because not everybody has that advanced knowledge, and you need to give an environment where they can model the machine learning models and really deploy them and manage the entire life cycle with the updates as well. That's going to be very important. So those versionings are very important, and even the changes, because if a customer comes with a new application, or they did an acquisition and the new company comes with the new data sets, how would you do that, right? So you have to model also and think about this lifecycle management. And very important is security, because remember, the data was owned by the application, and the data and the application own the security model. So now, if that data leaves and goes somewhere else, you take that data set, you're going to train that, and you're going to deploy, and you're going to interrogate now through APIs, from a prediction on a data that has a security model. How would you take care of that? Is Massimo can ask this prediction. Maybe he's not in the same department, in finance or in sales or in manufacturing. I may not have access to that prediction, right? So you have to take care of the security. And when data lives in a business application, you have already a security problem, right? So that's when you go and do an AI project, you have to think about security. So once you have trained a model and deploy, that's nice. You have a model, but who is going to consume? What's the programming model of consuming that model? And for us was, okay, in one of the ERP system or one of the CRM system or supply chain system, I can change my business logic, and now I call the machine learning model to do a prediction and and expose that to the end user. That's one programming model. The other is to have background orchestrations where I predict that an asset fails, and I need to order a new asset, a new air conditioner. That is a new requisition, a new purchase order, and then there is a new invoice. So that entire orchestration needs to be executed in the background. A third background model, which you see more in corporations that are not really bought into AI, is where you have human workflows. So you have a prediction, there is a new purchase order that needs to be done. But I don't want the AI to decide in the background. Now I want a task to an end user, to someone that is responsible, and decide, okay, the prediction is actually correct. Now I approve it, and then the thing is going to happen in the background. So there is a human intervention. That is because a lot of corporations, even the smaller ones, are not really bought into. So you have to bring these programming models in between. If you are running BI, business intelligence, yes, now your BI can run more smarter. But what we see also is the chaining of AI calls or AI APIs where AI calls AI, where you really not only do a prediction of an inventory shortage, but you replenish the inventory with a new pricing and you apply a workflow approval. So you chain multiple AI calls. So those are our programming models that we apply to business software. And of course, once you keep running, you can on the fly retrain. That's a great thing of SageMaker, redeploy, and then you have a new model that reflects the new trained capabilities. So given these requirements for business software, you got to have all these things. That's why we built our, what we call Infor Coleman AI platform to make sure we have all these things together and we can give it to customers. Also very important for us is to give templates so that the customers could take models, pre-built models by Infor, and then give it to them so that the deployment of the project will be much more faster than starting from completely from zero. So the Coleman AI platform initiative at Infor has three major categories. So we have what we call the digital assistants, which by the way we use Amazon Lex for that. We use the initiative that we're going to talk about today is the AI platform, and we're also busy with the robotic process automation. But we are going to focus today on the AI platform. So these are the number of use cases that we are working on today with our customers. And you see there are also all different categories and different industry. One of very popular is predictive maintenance. Infor owns one of the best enterprise asset management product is we are in a leader in the Magic Quadrant of Gartner. And a lot of customers are doing projects with us on predictive maintenance with our IoT platform that we have in Infor OS and asset management together. We're doing a lot of projects on that. But there are also other type of projects that you can see here. So the other requirement I was talking about is that connection of data in the business process. We have built a graph to connect all this data. And the graph is really at the core of the machine learning. So a lot of business vendors own domain of data. So you have CRM vendors, but that's just one of the domain, right? And then you have maybe human capital management software vendors. They own one of the domain. Or you have ERP vendors that own one of the domain. At Infor, we have all these capabilities, right? So what we did, we just connect with a business graph. And we did that because we want our AI to be as smart as possible, right? So the more connections you have, the better your AI for your predictions. If you own only one domain or you do your AI on one domain, it's not going to be very smart. So think about this business process. The IoT readings reads there is a failure of an air conditioner. That's its connect to an asset management. That asset management has work order history and has service history. The service of the air conditioning is done by a service engineer, which is in the HCM system, which has the history of how the experience of the service engineer, the training, and so on and so on. That all data is interconnected. And if you apply AI, you can see that maybe that asset is failing not only because maybe there was bad weather, that everybody was doing that kind of prediction, but maybe because we are not servicing good enough, right? Or we are not understanding the vendor of the air conditioning. It's not a proper training. So all this type of connection is very important to apply a very good AI for the business. So the data graph is actually part not only of our integration, but is on the second level, on the second step, is on our Infor data lake. So all the data that we have in the applications at Infor in our cloud suite, what I was talking about, we are able to bring through our integration layer in one single place that is called the data lake. So we can elevate all the data in this data lake, which is based on AWS S3, and it is very convenient for us because now with SageMaker, we can take all this data out of the S3 and we can start the training, right? But to get the data to S3, yeah, you see a lot of work has been done, plumbing, to do that, to make the machine learning day one ready to go, right? So, and then we build the catalog for the metadata, the graph, and then of course the security. So we build a security layer, not only for single sign-on and federated services, but we have permission and user management and role management. That is connected both to the applications, to our API gateway, and through all the layers in the data lake as well. So that if an application or an orchestration or a workflow calls the machine learning model, it will run under that security model detected by the applications. So there is no way that someone is asking for a prediction that he or she is not supposed to ask. So then finally we have this data in a data lake, and with the graph, now we can start with machine learning, okay? And we wanted to deliver a platform, I would say not a platform, but really a modeler to our customers. So we didn't want them to really go in the console and, okay, go ahead, do all the machine learning, but we really wanted to give them a very simplified way to create it, to make sure that both global enterprises, but also SMB customers could do it. So these are the steps. So you have either third-party data, data lake, you can start to get the data, select the algorithm, train models, and then deploy the APIs into SageMaker, elevate those APIs in our gateway so they run under the same security, and then you can start to consume that. And so this is the modeler that we built. It's a browser-based, of course, runs in the cloud on AWS. And according to some roles, you can go in and you can really start to model that. We have different colors setting for the handling. So we call it a data quest. So what it means, a quest is, like a journey. You select your data, you apply the algorithms, or you clean up the data, you apply the algorithms, you train them, and you deploy. When you deploy, you really deploy an API in our gateway, so it's ready for consumption. When you select the data at the beginning, it's the data already cleaned and in the data lake, already ready to go for consumption. So there is nothing that needs to be done. It's just ready. And this model, when you save it, you can update that, you can export that. So there is the entire life cycle for customers to manage those models. They don't see the complexity of all the machine learning. And maybe global corporations will want to see it. This is fine. But a lot of our customers has less knowledge of machine learning, and this model is going to be great for them for consuming it and really saying, oh, okay, we can use machine learning. So we have a demo. I have a small video with a demo that shows you the capabilities of this modeler, the Coleman AI platform. So let's take a look at it. And so it really ends for what it calls AI for the enterprise, right? That's really what we're building. So this AI is applied in different fields. And what you have seen today is how you apply AI to business software for the enterprise, right? So that I hope that gets a view of what the tool is and what we're building is. And if you are more interested for us to know about Coleman, we're always happy to help. So what's next for us? We believe AI is very, very good for business corporations to become more and more efficient. At the end of the day, we build software to be better, faster, and efficient. But we believe also there is a lot of in AI in the middleware space, in the PaaS, platform as a service, things where a rule engine, probably they're going to be dying. You don't need a rule engine anymore. They're going to have an AI engine to decide. So our API gateway, our event-driven ESB, data lake, and other tools will use AI as well. So it's not going to be built for business software, but also for platform services as well. The other thing that is coming more and more very important is who is monitoring AI, right? In the business software, in financials, public sector, if AI is making a decision, who is going to be responsible for? Is the customer? Is the software vendor? Is the infrastructure as a service vendor? Right? So who is responsible for AI? So actually, we build also monitoring tools where AI, the decision of AI is transparent and is logged and is elevated to the auditors so that they can see why AI and how AI has made a decision. That's even in Europe is very, very important to have that transparency. So that's going to be another requirement in the checklist you saw before. The monitoring of AI and software robots is going to be very important. You're not going to come and get in production any AI workloads in financial industry, manufacturing industries, healthcare, if you don't have that transparency. So that's another thing that you will need to take care. So, and why we're using Amazon SageMaker? Of course, Infor runs all the cloud software in AWS, so very, very easy, of course. We have all our data in a data lake in AWS S3, so also very, very convenient, of course. But also we believe SageMaker is for us a very, very good platform. The deployment, the fact that now we have this modular where we can deploy the machine learning and then everything is taken care, it's really fantastic. So we don't need to focus on that. That's why we have focused on other things in the checklist. The checklist of, do I have a machine learning framework? That was done by Amazon, right? So that was SageMaker for us. And that's really good and works for the enterprise and scales. And the auto updates, it's very important features for us. So whereas a customer gets a new data set or a new acquisition with new data sets, that's becoming for us, that's very important for us. And therefore, SageMaker is an excellent choice. And so we're working close with them on the next requirements, next gen requirements. So there is a lot to come where both solutions are coming together. Coleman AI today, it's a beta. We are working with a lot of customers. And in our annual conference in September this year, we're going to make it general available to all the Infor customers. Okay, with that, I want to thank you. And if there are any questions, I will be available here for a couple of questions.